morning, it's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself, and today I want to talk about guilt. So if that's something that you're interested in, hit the like button and subscribe below for more videos just like this. So first in the video, we're going to talk about guilt, what guilt is, why we hang on to guilt. Then we're going to talk about our habits. We're going to talk about our habits, our bad habits, things that are keeping us stuck in our life. We're also going to talk about willpower, our desires, what we truly want, and using this force inside us, our willpower, in order to get it. And how habits are ultimately stronger than willpower. And what does this have to do with guilt? And how can I move forward in my life and let go of guilt? Okay, let's get into it. What is guilt? So I have a lot of guilt from years of having a chronic illness. And when people are chronically ill or chronically suffering or in pain in some way, they often feel extreme guilt. They also feel shame. And if you haven't checked out my videos on shame and healing deep shame, please do that. But that is not what we're talking about today. We're talking about guilt. Guilt is something a little different than shame. It's when we feel we have done something wrong, we've screwed up in some big way, we know it was wrong, it goes against our conscience, against who we want to be in the world, against what we believe, therefore we feel this extreme amount of guilt, okay? We don't want to be the type of person who X. We don't want to be the type of person who Y, right? And so because of that, and because we did this thing, we now feel guilty. And maybe the thing that we did was actually the right thing to do, or maybe we really didn't know any better at the time, or maybe it was just plain wrong. Whatever the case, the guilt is usually the same, right? Because we don't want to be associated with that thing. We wish it didn't happen. That's what guilt is, when we wish it didn't happen. So the same way a child might feel guilty for lying or stealing something because they know it's wrong and they wish they didn't do it, you might feel guilty for having a chronic illness, for having pain, ruining your family's life, ruining other people's life, bringing them down, wasting time, not achieving the goals that you set out for yourself, and you wish none of this happened. You wish it didn't happen. Right, so when you have chronic illness, it's the same sort of guilt as anybody feels, or anyone might feel, even a child, if they tell a lie. So we're talking about the same principle here. So in my experience, there is two ways to get over guilt. One is to forgive ourselves and make peace with what happened in a way that we can absolve ourselves from feeling like we did so wrong. And even if I did do something wrong that I knew better at the time, and it was just blatantly wrong, if I can somehow sit with that feeling and love and totally accept myself anyway, and agree that guilt has served its purpose, that guilt's purpose is to show you where you've gone wrong, give you that feeling so that you can correct a path and you don't make the same mistake again. Guilt serves the purpose for putting you on a better path. It shows you what you don't want to do again. It helps you become a better person. But there comes a line when you hold on to guilt longer than necessary. You've already learned your lesson. You already know you don't want to be that kind of person, and you don't want to do that again, or you don't want that to happen, yet you hold on to the guilt as a way to punish yourself. If you're holding on to guilt to punish yourself, one of the ways that you can make peace with this is to let it go, is to realize and reason with yourself that it's okay to let it go now because you've learned your lesson. And now that you know better, you can do better. And then when you sit and you remind yourself that you love yourself no matter what, you want the best life for yourself, you vow to do better, you make peace with the fact that you can't change what happened, and you decide as an act of love, self-love, to let it go, to forgive yourself, and to allow yourself to move forward without the self-inflicted punishment, which is what guilt is, right? When kids are younger and they do something wrong, we give them a consequence that meets the crime, okay? There's nobody there to give you a consequence. Therefore, you self-inflict guilt as a long-lasting punishment. The problem with guilt is that it can lead to chronic illness, chronic pain, chronic suffering, chronic disease. Guilt felt long-term or chronically seeks self-punishment. That's its purpose. That's what it does. And it inflicts pain. Physical often, mental, physical, and emotional pain. Okay, so we want to be self-aware enough to realize we've learned the lesson. We know what kind of person we want to be. We want to strive to do better. We vow to do that. And then we let ourselves off the hook, much like a parent lets a child off the hook. Now you've served the punishment. It's a clean slate. We wipe it clean. You're back to normal. You're forgiven. If that parent held on to that and said, now your punishment and your consequence is over, but I'm just not going to love you or accept you anymore. You're going to have to prove it every step of the way now. You're not unconditionally loved until you earn it back. I don't trust you. I'm not going to love you anymore unconditionally, and I'm not going to accept you anymore. That would be a form of punishment. Really psychological punishment for the child that would really damage the child. That is what you're doing to yourself. You're self-inflicting punishment, the feeling of guilt as a consequence, and you're refusing to let it go, to give yourself the clean slate, the unconditional love and acceptance, and the chance to make it better, the chance to do it over, the chance to become a better person, the chance to live freely and try again, right? With none of that hanging over your head. So that's a choice, and you have to give it to yourself. Self-love and unconditional love and acceptance. So that's number one. That's the first way, and probably the best way, to overcome guilt. Okay, let's talk about way number two. This is where we're going to talk about willpower, and we're also going to talk about habits. Why? How does this have anything to do with guilt? Right? How can this help us let go of guilt? Let's talk about it. Okay, willpower. Willpower is one of the most important things that we use when we have chronic illness or chronic disease or chronic suffering, because often the things that we're doing aren't moving us forward enough. The things that we're trying, the diets we're eating, the protocols we're doing aren't moving us forward in the way that we want, and we need to use willpower, this big determination, this digging down deep to find this resolve within ourselves to move us forward, to continuing to try, to continuing to move forward, right? Because it can be very hard in life, just as it is in chronic illness, to move forward when you're coming up against roadblocks, when things aren't working out. This is where we rely on willpower as somebody with a chronic illness. Here's the thing about willpower. Habits beat willpower all the time. Every single time. Habits beat willpower. Now, I know what you're saying. No. Willpower is the most important. And it is. Willpower can virtually overcome anything. It can overcome anything. However, willpower is like a muscle, and it gets taxed easily. Willpower is hard to use for an extended period of time. Willpower is great in short bursts. I mean, if you're in a dangerous situation and a mother sees, this is where you can have a mother lift a car off a baby. Her willpower in that moment is stronger than the obstacle in front of her. That is the amazing power of willpower. But for an extended period of time, she can't lift the car, run from the thing, do the thing. You cannot keep that kind of willpower, that kind of steeled willpower and resolve it takes to do an act like that. And you cannot continue because it's like a muscle. It gets worn out, worn down, heavily taxed easily, okay? Because it's such a great resource, but it's meant to be used in small bursts to lift us up enough so that then we can use habits to sustain us and something else to keep us going, right? So motivation and willpower are essential. However, when you're chronically ill or chronically suffering in pain, or you have something that you are trying to deeply overcome, this muscle gets taxed all the time and hard, okay? And so it's so hard for us to keep using willpower all day long, every day, in order to heal ourselves or do what we need to do, right? And so we often need to rely on building habits, because habits are going to beat willpower when willpower is fatigued, right? So if your habit is to pick up your phone and scroll, and that's a habit you intellectually want to break and you emotionally want to break and you feel it's not good for you, if you wake up and your phone is beside your bed and you hear it dinging, you are gonna roll over, pick it up, look at the phone and start to scroll, because it's a habit. And you've made it easy. The phone's beside you. It's easy not to break that habit. It's easy not to resist our natural reaction to just do the easier thing, to just do the more pleasurable thing in the moment, right? So therefore we would pick up the phone and start scrolling. And then here's how it relates to guilt. We feel guilty as our punishment. So now we've said we're not going to look at the phone. We pick it up and we start scrolling because it's easy, right? It's become a habit. It's easy. It's right beside us. We pick it up, we start doing it. But psychologically, because we've chosen to not look at the phone and we, in our heart, don't want to, and we know all the reasons it's hurting us, we start to punish ourselves. I mean, the easiest thing would be to set down the phone and move on with your day so that you don't have to feel the guilt. But because we want to look at the phone and it gives us pleasure, it brings us pleasure of some point, part of us wants to be doing this habit. And so we punish ourselves for the pleasure that we're getting out of the activity that we know we don't mentally and emotionally want in our life, and we know it's not good for us. So therefore, because we can't stop her, we're not strong enough, or we haven't created good enough habits in order to not pick up that phone, we continue to do it because we're getting something out of it. We enjoy it on some level, and we inflict guilt instead. Punishment, a little bit of self-loathing, self-hate, criticism, judgment. Our inner thoughts start to beat ourselves up. We start to put ourselves down. We're worthless. We're no good. We're failures. Okay? This is the messaging that guilt sends to your body. So the second way that we can let go of guilt is to change our habits. Because if we change our habits, then we don't have that feeling that we need to then inflict guilt or inner punishment. So if you realize and you wake up and you become aware, I'm really sending some bad messaging to myself. I'm calling myself a failure, a loser. I'm no good, right? I'm a jerk, whatever it is. I can't believe I'm doing this, right? If you start just sending these inner thoughts to yourself as you're looking at the phone, but you don't put the phone down, one of the ways that you can relieve guilt is by putting the phone down and making a better and a different choice. Doing the thing that you actually have designed, the design of your life, and going for it, then we don't feel guilty. If you set the phone down, put your running shoes on and go for a walk, or if you set the phone down and go play with your kids and engage, the guilt will go away because we're not doing the thing that we know that we actually don't want to be doing but can't stop doing because it's a habit. So one of the ways that we could break a habit is we don't put the phone beside the bed. We put it in another room and we turn it off. And Instead, we put our running shoes and our jogging outfit beside our bed. When we wake up in the morning, it's going to be a lot easier for us to not scroll on the phone and to get up and do what we really want to do with our time, which is maybe go for a run. Okay, so now we've made it easier to do the thing that we actually want to do, then we have made it easier to do the thing that we don't want to be doing. So this is an example, but we can do it with anything in our life. We can build good habits because, like I said, a willpower runs out quickly and habits last, right? We can set out the Vitamix before we go to bed and the ingredients, half the ingredients, the dry ingredients at least, or something for the smoothie in the morning, rather than come down the stairs and have it easy to open up the first drawer and see a box of cereal, say, if that's a habit that you're looking to break, right? We can open up the fridge or the cupboard, instead of seeing a bag of chips or chocolate bar, we see healthy things as an alternative, as a snack. So the first thing we can do, right, is unconditionally love and accept ourselves and let us off the hook saying that we want a clean slate now and we deserve a clean slate to go do and be the kind of person that we are. That deep unconditional love and acceptance sets us free from guilt. Number 2 is that we actually just go out and be the kind of person that we want, that erases what we didn't want in our life, right? So we break the habits that are holding us back. We break whatever is happening. We change. We make amends for what's happening. We do something to better ourselves and our life. And when we do something to move our life forward in a positive way, to make an important change in our life, to be a better person, to live our best life, and we do this through actually just taking action, breaking habits, and changing our patterns so that we can prove, like we can live that second chance. Then we don't have to inflict guilt as well. Then we're not inflicting guilt. Because if you're carrying around guilt like a child who maybe has lied, and maybe they don't like that. They don't like what they've done. Okay, they don't like what they've done. They feel bad. They're carrying this around. Well, if they love and forgive themselves and allow themselves that unconditional love and that clean slate to be a better person and just to move forward and know that they're loved and it's okay that they made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes and they love themselves anyway. They can relieve the guilt. Or if they decide, instead of continuing to lie or continuing to not be the kind of kid that they know that they can be, if they make a big change and do something wonderful for the family, make up for it in some way, or do something good for themselves, if they start to build a life that they want and make different decisions, they will instantly also feel better and the guilt will be relieved. Because the reason the guilt is there is as a form of self-punishment, okay? Punishing yourself because somehow the thing that you're hanging on to is giving you enough pleasure, or it's keeping you from being all that you can be. It's keeping you from doing and trying all that you can do and try. It's keeping you from, right? There's a part of you that wants to do something and there's a part of you that isn't doing it. And then there's this guilt that comes in and punishes you for that. Punishes you. But if you can overcome those bad habits, then you can also overcome the guilt. So this works well. You know, when you've done something in your past or when something has happened in the past, maybe it's even out of your control, like this chronic illness, you know, it's not your fault, yet you feel guilty for it, okay? Some of the things that we can do to overcome that are to start breaking our bad patterns, right? If we get up and we drink our smoothie and we do our exercises and we go for our walk and we're being proactive and we're really trying to overcome, we do something nice for our family, we do the best that we can each and every day, we aren't going to feel that guilt plaguing us. It's when we get up and we sit in our own victimhood, we feel sorry for ourselves, we go ahead and eat that crappy chocolate bar, or we don't make the smoothie, and we don't go for the walk, and we let ourselves down, right? That we inflict this self-punishment, we inflict more of it. So we can stop inflicting punishment if we start living a life that's aligned with what at least our values are and who we want to become. Even if we're not healed yet, even if we can't change all of that or change what happened in the past, if we can be the best us that we can be today, if you can be the best version of yourself today, even with pain, even with illness, even, and you can be the best version today and move toward the life that you want each and every single day, then you can absolve yourself of that guilt. So this is taking action to be the best self that you can be, to be the version of yourself that you can be proud of, to move in a direction that you feel good about, that you're in alignment with, right? This is how we overcome guilt. And when we combine 1 and 2, when we can take action, when we're breaking bad habits, when we're, putting habits in front of us instead of relying on willpower all day, every day, because we know by the end of the day we're going to be fatigued and we can't just make those decisions when we're relying and I'm going to do a video just on how we break habits and how we can do this easily. But when we are being that best person and bringing that best self forward and trying to go forward into the direction that we want, and at the same time we can completely love and accept ourselves for what's happened, for our part in it, no matter what we did, how long it was, or how bad it was. When we can give ourselves unconditional love and acceptance, and at the same time we do number 2, where we're breaking bad habits and we're showing up as the person who we actually choose in our hearts and our intellect to be, and our actions are matching that, everything's in alignment, there is no need for self-punishment, which is guilt. And there is no need for emotional and physical pain when this happens. So I hope you understand a little more now about what guilt is, why we hang on to it, the 2 ways that we can get rid of it, and if we do them both at once, we really, really can let go of that guilt that hangs over our head, that is self-inflicted, completely self-inflicted, and we can truly wipe that slate clean and feel free. When we feel free, we feel loved, we feel whole, we feel accepted, and we feel free to be the person that we choose and we want to be. And when our actions match that and we go ahead and do the things that we want to do, and we break those bad habits and we continue to be better and better, there's no guilt, there's pride. You start to feel proud of yourself. You start to feel that love for yourself, that acceptance for yourself. And you're starting to raise those vibrations. When you feel that, you're replacing the guilt with the vibrations necessary to heal your chronic illness. Feeling proud of yourself, feeling love, feeling acceptance, feeling happy, feeling joy, feeling powerful, feeling driven, feeling ambitious, feeling anything like that. And you know that these vibrations and these emotional states are the frequencies. The more and more we feel into these, and if you haven't watched my video on the law of vibration, please, it's so important, go watch that. This is how we heal. Our vibration is matching what we do want, and when we stay in that state, we create more of it. And this is the life, and this is how healing happens. This is how forgiveness happens. This is how we become whole again. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video and learned something. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so, and I will see you in the next video.